G'day guys, welcome to Railroads Online. Normally I just stream this game, and mostly I've been streaming on my own personal railroad. I said if I ever did a series, I'd probably start again from fresh. But we've been kind of putting that off since the seasons are kind of in the middle of everything, and you know, there's a big update coming. And in fact, that's what this video is going to be about. What's coming in the new update, as well as showing it off a bit. Even though there's plenty of other people out there who have done it, I kind of wanted to give it from my perspective. To get things started, we're going to have this little locomotive here. Normally, when you get into the game, it'd be the first locomotive you'd get over here, named Betsy. But this isn't Betsy. This is Testy, the testing locomotive. As you can see, there's a bit different features, a few different things that are a bit changed, and potentially this could be a newer version of Betsy that's coming in the future. It does seem to be of a bit higher quality than the Betsy we have in game right now, and it has definitely been used quite extensively for testing out the new features. Now, what new features are those? Well, the track system's getting changed entirely. See, this is what the new track is going to look like. And this is what the old track used to look like. It was a system where you would place down groundwork and then place the track on top. Where now, it's just all going to be together. So, what does this look like in practice? Let's just grab this, turn it around. By the way, the key bindings you see there on the right are my own personal settings, not something that they actually start you with. So I made those myself based off of how I play. Now there's two modes. Right now we're in the just freehand mode. I can tell an angle that I want to go, kind of just connect up to things and just go bada bing bada boom. Or I can press 5 and that will straighten it out and it will now become a circle mode. If I tell it, based on my key commands, which way I want to go, I could set the diameter of the curve. I can also, both in free mode and in circle mode, I have set it up to where the 8 and 2 on my keypad raise and lower the incline. For right now, we're just going to connect up the track to here, which connects into my already made little test area. It's not a lot of track, but it's enough with the new saving system so that I can kind of get a good idea of how the system works, how things play, and how it all interacts compared to the original system. And now we're just moving Testy back onto the track here for the test area. As you can hear, her chuffs are a little bit different than she used to be. And without all the bells and whistles, we can't really test and see if those have changed either. But they're better synced up sounds now, as well as maybe a bit deeper. According to the person who is working as the audio, this is sounds taken from another locomotive that they've just pitch adjusted to try and make work for Betsy. Which is understandable. There aren't many Betsy's around anymore to just go and get great recordings from, so you kind of have to make do. And honestly, it doesn't sound that bad. It actually sounds much better than it used to. Now, you may have noticed that there was a switch back there that was misaligned that we just rolled right through. That's one of the new features, I guess you could say, of the new update. Feature is a broad term here. It's more of a limitation of the new type of splines that they're using to create this. Splines are essentially just what tells the game to go from point A to point B and how things work along it. The old system was mostly just creating the track, where the new version does it for both the groundwork, the track, and tells the train how to work. The old system was physics-based. That means those wheels are slotted here between these two, and if they all get a weird idea that they need to get out of this little area here, they will jump the track. Which, I mean, sounds like it would be a great idea, but game engines aren't that amazing. Even with Unreal 5, it wouldn't fix the problem that at high speeds, it's a lot easier for the game to go, oh no, you suddenly hit something and now jump the track, even though there was nothing there. So as you can see, it's a lot easier to just make really nice looking track, and as well as when you click and add in these switches, it adds in the foundation underneath. Now, there are multiple versions of the main foundation, and that's going to be found here under the track construction section. This is going to be our new tool. It looks like when it comes to constructing track in the future, the rails, bridges, and groundwork will probably go away. So in this section, you're going to see that there's a 3'2", and a 3'3". This is essentially just how high the embankment is. So 1 is going to be the shortest. It's probably going to be a few feet up, and that's about it. 2 is a little bit higher, and 3 is the highest it will go. 4, on the other hand, just allows you to build straight on the ground. So if I wanted to, I could just click 4, click somewhere on the ground, like say here, and then just build track. Kind of like the old system to a degree. Beyond the track system changing, there's also a few other small additions that are in this build right now. I don't know if this will make it to the live version, but they've changed the season to what they're calling spring. Kume has decided that it seems like they're changing it to match the seasons at the time when the updates are being worked on. The original one was kind of a fall. This is supposed to be more of a spring, and then there was a winter version. Now, I don't know if there's any ideas to maybe implement them dynamically later on as the game goes on. Maybe in the future we'll just see the map slowly changing through all this vegetation and stuff as you work throughout the year, but that is a potentiality, which could be kind of cool and fun. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Overall, this is just a really nice way of kind of changing up the map so that no matter when you decide to play throughout the year, it still feels fresh when you come back to the same map. And then there's these. These got added in with the most recent addition, about 2 updates back, for the beta branch, and these are the new cars. There's been an entirely new modeling team brought into the game recently, and because of that, they started working on redoing some of the older cars and bringing them up to a new higher standard, which these absolutely are. My goodness, look at these amazing cars. Everything's been updated and changed for the rolling stock, so we'll take a look at what we can. To start out, I wanted to kind of look in depth at the Caboose. It's a bit of a weird thing here, but this is actually the chain leading up to the brake. It's hooked up into the brake system so that when you turn it, it actually applies a brake to slow down the train. It's a very lovely detailed underside, and that's kind of an interesting thing because I don't remember ever being so interested in looking at the underside of a train car before. The other thing are these new brake wheels. They are a bit different compared to the old ones, but my goodness, do these look good. And then there's the Caboose itself. They added these lovely doors. They've changed the windows up for different models of Caboose, and the inside is entirely different. Instead of just being that mint green all the time, we got a version of the Caboose that has these much nicer blue highlights that kind of has enough of a complementary color palette to kind of like break up the mintness. My goodness. Since there's a new modeler, they added redo everything, including things like the stove, which I really like this new stove. There's still a few issues, like the logs kind of have fallen into the floor, but that's a programming issue and probably get fixed before this launches. There also seems to be lanterns on the walls and even on the table over here. Ooh. And the table over here. So you'll probably be able to turn those on at another time. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but it's interesting back here. Of course, there's plenty of storage that you would find in a Caboose, probably with a bunch of different items that you need for operation. And of course, we do have the area up here where you can sit and look out. Also, I don't remember the other Caboose having this little window down here allowing you to look out. Also, if you just hop up on this bed here, you can actually look out the other window here, being able to see out the other side. Kind of allowing you to have multiple views and have multiple people in your Caboose at the same time, looking out in case, they're looking to see if there's another train on the track. Or seeing if your train cars have derailed behind you. And the other car that we have here is the State Car. They sit nice and low to the track and look absolutely fantastic. Looking underneath, there's so much detail. Just to the understructure and even like the light peeking through the slats. Like, this is fantastic work. There are a few issues like the lettering, but that's a holdover from the old cars, and from what I can tell, they're still adjusting that. So that should be fixed before release. Other things that have changed are these flat cars, the ones that you put the logs on. They're a bit less focusing on the bendable weight and are more rigid in frame. So you shouldn't expect these cars to buckle that much under the logs. In fact, these are very sturdy cars and I doubt they would buckle much. But man, do they look great. And then of course there's the stake board, if you will, the Cordwood cars. This is where you would put cordwood and oil barrels on. Also got a nice update. Looks fantastic. And these little holes show a great amount of detail has been added to each of the cars, including all the bolts on the back of the boards here. And then each of these cars has also been given the new brake style. Other than the flat cars, every other car has also gotten a change, like the hoppers. But also such details are absolutely fantastic because now we have this little light peeking in from the ends. And as you can see, it just looks fantastic with daylight streaming through. Now, I don't know how it looks filled up because I haven't run a train up to fill one of these up yet. So I don't know if that looks better or worse than the old version, so I can't comment on that. Once again, these cars, like the other ones, do have a bit of a lettering issue. And then there's the tanker. The tanker has been entirely changed, and in fact, I love the new tankers. It has such a nice solid look to it and the details are fantastic. I'm really curious if as we get more different types of materials and freight types, if we'll start getting new maybe we'll start getting signs that go in those little areas that you see here where the diamonds are to depict the different types of chemicals inside. I don't know if that's accurate to the old system for the early 1800s, but I could believe that they may have had a rudimentary version of that so that they weren't just mixing trains incorrectly. There's probably some way that they were identifying what was in each car. A promise of things to come. We finally get a lovely new boxcar, and man, does this look great. Having been to the Colorado Railroad Museum myself, I've actively seen some of these in person, and this is a very accurate boxcar compared to them. This is something that they would have used on the narrow gauge lines in the Rocky Mountains, and it's a fantastic little addition here. I'm so happy to see this in here. The old one was nice, but this is so much better. The last big change comes in the form of the DRG Class 70. This locomotive has an entirely new model and it looks fantastic. It even has new versions of the smokestack that you can put on here and different headlamps. I love this. Now, the old version did have flags, but I'm gonna be frank, it didn't really make sense. The only way the railroad would use flags with this would be if it was for an event or for classification purposes, and none of the flags that were included were for classification purposes. So it was a neat detail, but honestly, kind of useless. The details on this locomotive are spectacular, down to the builder's plate there on the left, to the piping, to the internal gears underneath, the boiler. Everything just looks fantastic. Even the new tender just looks really good in all this. Up close, this was an odd locomotive because the engineer would actively stand inside the cab there on the right, while the fireman would stand back outside on the tender stoking the fire. Now, nobody would really be over on this side, but it is interesting to note that the modeler did actually put details over here onto pipes that actively have builder information on it, which is a nice detail. Now, as you can see here, we have all the controls that you would have to operate the locomotive, as well as a nice lantern there that kind of illuminate all the pressure gauges and everything, which I think is a really nice touch. I don't remember the old Class 70 having that. Now, if you'd like to see how one of these are operated, you can go check out Hyce, Hyce. He did the music as well as was the community manager up until late May 2022. Hyce has since left the team and kind of went more to a background position. I don't know if they're entirely moved off from not providing music, but it sounds like they might have provided what they could, and they've moved on to other projects. The main thing to take from that is Hyce actively works for the Colorado Railroad Museum, and during a trip before he got fully hired back there again, he actually went and recorded himself operating a locomotive much like this in real life. So you can actually watch an engineer use a locomotive of this type, see how it runs, and then maybe that will help you when you go to operate it yourself. Or it's just a cool video overall to see someone kind of running one of these in person. Now, I've mentioned all the cars, and I mentioned all the rolling stock changes that I believe are in this update, but I figured I might as well take you over to my yard at the logging mill to kind of show what it looks like having a lot of these cars lined up, and it just looks fantastic. Like, these are really lovely cars and just look so much better and fit more with the world. The bright red of the old ones was nice, but it definitely kind of contrasted and doesn't really fit. I mean, they're wonderful for finding them in the green grass, but otherwise they kind of stuck out. The good news is with the new system, you can absolutely link embankments together so it will continue from where you left off. So you won't actively have to try and go find it. So I wanted to do a bit of a test. I'm using the Embankment 3, which would also be the Rails 3, to kind of build this little test area here for some of the other new things that are coming in the update. So first up is the wooden bridge. You've already seen this in previous versions, but it's got a bit of a new version to it. The texture has been kind of diluted from that increasingly obvious yellow. That yellow is really hard to miss now that I've compared it to this. This looks much more realistic and looks much better. Also, the lighting seems to reflect off it much better, so probably a much better image quality. Also, he has a new track deck on top. Because these are now considered rails, if you delete this, it deletes the bridge as well. I don't know if there's any plans to change that, but right now, the bridges are a whole package together. You get it all at once. This is one of the new bridges that are being added with the update, and it has definitely had some teething problems. The first version was a bit fantastic in its implementation, but it had some issues. Notably, it didn't like it when you would try to build more and overextend it. Now it has a bit of an issue of underextending. Each end is supposed to have an abutment like this on the groundworks, but it seems to only do one when you're building. So these are bugs. They're known. Hopefully they'll be fixed before the release. One of the nice features about these is they have a little walkway here off to the side. I don't know how I feel with the fact that it jumps you up to the top. That might be a dev build thing, but that is kind of a weird thing to have. Like, if I'm walking along this and I do this, I would absolutely be scared, especially if it's on a high enough valley. But they come in a variety of different colors, so let's go through this quickly. The first bridge was labeled New. This one is called Fireproof. As you can see, it gives you a very lovely red coloring all across it, even on the ties that go across the bridge. It's a lovely color. It looks fantastic. I love this one a lot. I think I might use this in a few different areas, but it's an interesting contrast to the bridges we have now. It adds some color and variety to the bridges that we can build. And next up is the D and RGW. This was used for the Denver and Rio Grande. As you can see, it has a much darker wood and this very bright white look. It's pretty striking. Next up is a lovely dark brown just called creosote. Creosote is also the chemical that they used to dip ties in. Overall, I think it's a lovely look. I love this. Fits lovely with the pine trees all around. And last but not least is this very lovely gray and light brown rendition just called Old. I really like this one, but don't know if I'll use it much, but it is a really nice look. As you can see up here on the top, the bridge deck has kind of more of a old bluish hue to it, and I really just enjoy the look of this one. Once again, I'm not sure how much I would use it, but I do really like it. Maybe some river crossings could use it, or who knows what. One of the other things you get a big kind of big update with all these bridges is, other than the new stuff, the old stuff. This is the old steel bridge, and it has a nice new texture. It just looks much better than it used to. And then it also has the new track deck on top. Really excited to see this, like, in the sky, bridging very large gaps across the mountains. And then last but not least in that section is the new stone wall embankment. As you can see, it's a much thinner one on top than the old one, but it fits much nicer all together. As you can see, it's also been given a new texture, a bit more of a brownish look compared to the very gray look of the old one. This is probably going to look a bit better in the distance and standing out a bit more from your mountains potentially. Now, one of the things I have noticed that I'm not sure if is meant to be or not, it might just be because this is Testy, but the brakes are extremely sticky on this. Like, compared to the original Betsy, I can barely leave any brake on this at any time, which makes it really hard to control and get the speed I want. Like, even a small bit of throttle in this causes it to go launching forward. Now, Testy definitely has proven to be a very interesting little locomotive. I'm very curious about seeing what the rest of the locomotives look like in this new version of the mod with the new track, because of course this new track doesn't work like the old one, so they have to re-implement everything, including the new cars and new Class 70 that got added. They also have to re-implement all that back over onto the new track system. Overall, I think that the beta branch has a lot of interesting things on it. The new track system, the new cars, all of it is going to be cohesive in making one very interesting thing. And I'm very excited to see where they go with this. There's a lot of bugs to fix. I keep seeing more and more. My hope is, because it does seem like we're slowly narrowing a lot of the bugs down into like a more stable branch, we could be seeing this come out in like another month or so. But there's no way to actually tell. The new tracks still have a bunch of issues, as you've seen. The bridges still aren't working exactly the way they should, but they're getting there. They're doing better than they used to. In fact, today's update made it so you could walk on the walkways, which was one of the big things that I actually have been delaying making this video, because last time I went to make it, the next day's update caused it to make it so you could fall through the walkways, and I was like, seems like this needs more work. Now it seems like we're definitely getting somewhere, and we're definitely on the right track. Actually, more like the middle track here. But it does honestly feel like QMA has got a goal and a plan, and potentially it will be out soon enough. So, for now, thank you all for watching. I'm really excited to see where Railroad Online goes, and who knows, maybe in Season 3 I'll make a Railroads Online series. Till next time, this is Silver, this has been Gaming in the Grove, and this is Railroads Online, the beta branch, and I'll see you all again later.